Hey, what we're going to talk about today is something I really don't want to do, and I really don't want to talk about. And no matter what I've done, it has become the most prominent part of my life. And it seems to be the common thread that has woven the tapestry of my life. A few months ago, maybe 2 months ago, I was walking to the kitchen from the living room, and I was having a normal day. I mean, it wasn't a great day. There wasn't anything extraordinary happening. I wasn't sick with anything. I wasn't having a cold or any of that stuff that was going on back then. I was completely fine. Just a normal, boring day. And as soon as I got to the kitchen hallway, it felt like my spirit got pulled out of me. And I felt like I was upside down. My body was right side up, but I was upside down in my body. I caught myself just quickly enough before I tipped over and almost fell by holding both sides of the doorway, like the archway towards the kitchen. And I heard Lily meowing, like repeatedly meowing at me. So I put myself on the floor as gently as I could and just breathed really deeply and slowly for about a minute, or it seemed like a minute. And if you hear any weird sounds, I am moving on the uncomfortable chair and there's piano music in the background. I laid down on the floor after sitting down because I was just way too wobbly and I couldn't see straight. My vision turned into this honeycomb kaleidoscope. And the more I attempted to focus on what I was seeing, the more I noticed that there's a similar image in every single kaleidoscope I was seeing that wasn't actually in my kitchen. There was a man standing there, or at least it looked like a man. It was very feminine, very female, but very masculine energy to it. Like an intersex person. The body was more masculine formed, but the eyes, the energy, the aura, the way it felt was female. And for the sake of this video, I'm going to refer to this being as a male because it's common consensus. He had long white hair, white fuzzy facial hair, but not really long facial hair, barely noticeable. A book in his right hand, or it was the left hand, I think, actually. There was something else in the right hand, like two fingers pointing, but he was holding some kind of a pen or a quill or something that my mind relates to a writing object, but also a form of a wand. Or like a beam of light, something that was like a utensil to write in the book with and also point at things with. Like that crystal wand I had that I used to do tarot readings with, but like deified. He was wearing a white robe, but it wasn't white. It was like the epitome of white in every other color. And it was also black, but it wasn't split in between. It was black and white at the same time. I don't know if you can imagine this or visualize this. It was everything all at once. at the same time, with nothing being overshadowed by the other. Kind of like a holographic sticker or a chromatic something. Not like a rainbow, but maybe like a rainbow emission, a rainbow emulator, some rainbow spectrum. Like when you see a crystal that has rainbow shards in it and you move it around and there's like every color that you can see on it, or a piece of glitter that like seems to emit every wavelength of light just from a one little speck of glitter. This being, including what looked like its skin, seemed almost snake-like, humanoid, kind, caring, gentle-looking, but also very snake-like. Like if you take a Lord of the Rings elf character like Galadriel, mix her with Thranduil, and then give her like mystique scales, but keep the skin tone almost pale moonlight pink. Very pretty, very handsome, and very femininely beautiful at the same time. The complete paradox. And while I was sitting there on the floor, part of me wanted to be really afraid. And the other part of me felt like I was standing in front of God, or on the floor in front of God. But then this being also looked like it was sitting on the floor with me. Like no one was kneeling to the other, no one was asking anyone to kneel or bow. I wasn't sitting on the floor, I wasn't, dizzy. There was no space, there was no body, there was no height or verticalness or horizon, there was nothing, there was no XY axis. It was like everything all at once. And he spoke, but not directly to me. There was some other being that looked like if I've ever seen Archangel Michael, it must have looked like Archangel Michael. It was a magnificent being of light with more wings than I can count. But they weren't wings, they were waves of light coming out of it, out of the heart chakra area. It had a humanoid figure, and its hair was like strands of light. Its wings were thicker strands of light. Its arms were strands of light. Its legs were strands of light. And the only thing that was really noticeably humanoid was the chest area with a pulsating heart center, the eyes and the mouth. It was terrifyingly beautiful and peaceful to look at. Like, to be in the presence of something like that, it was something. It was something I will always remember. I have never ever seen anything like it. Ever. Even attempting to imagine something similar to it, I'm unable to imagine what I saw, even though I saw it. I can't bring myself in any way to imagine something as equal to those beings. It was like they were beyond my capacity to imagine. This being, the male-female being, when it spoke, I heard it through this angelic being that was standing on my left side. And then what that being said was being emanated to this group of beings to my right side, which was a like ragtag team of X-Men version of beings. They weren't light beings, they were a mixture of all sorts of beings. which I assume or I presume or I comprehended it as being my soul, my spirit guides, or my soul group. And while I was laying on the floor, seeing all of this with my physical eyes, my inner eye, my heart center eye, all of it, I realized my body isn't moving or breathing anymore. I was in my body, but nothing in my body was functioning. And then I noticed I'm staring at my body in third person point of view. I'm not seeing it from my eyes. And when I realized this, I realized, oh my God, I'm dying. Like, I'm on the floor and I'm dying. Holy shit. Like, this is the first time I'm making a video about this since it happened. When it occurred that day, I recorded a quick 10-minute thing just to remind myself, like, this really happened. This is the first time, like 2.5 months later, that I'm actually making a video about this. And I don't know if I'm gonna post this or not, but yeah, here it is. I was watching my body on the floor, and Lily was sitting next to me, licking my hands and my face, like moving around my body. And all I could think about and all I could feel and attempt to do was look around to find the person I have been in love with my entire life. The one that you've seen the videos I've made about, where we've had all these issues and problems and all that interference that happened to separate us. I was looking around for him. I wasn't even paying attention to what this being was saying to me or the soul group. I was just looking around to find him. And then one of my soul group people, like, it was as if they spoke directly to me, and my attention went right back to what was going on. And this being, the male, female, main being, I became really aware of who it was. And as soon as I became aware of who it was, the entire scene in the house, the kitchen, the suburb, the city I'm in, all of it completely evaporated into this membrane, this kind of shimmering cloud, this nebula. It's almost as if I was inside of the sun and the sun was traveling to the chasm in the Milky Way galaxy, that big, like, it looks like a scar in space, as if I was right next to that. It was so beautiful. And this being, I comprehended who it was. And it made itself like, it was the Demiurge. It was this, what we call God, Yahweh, the biblical figure. And I apologize for the noise out there. Obviously, you're aware of how much I'm interfered with on a daily basis. And it lifted its right hand, the one that it had that pen, wand, scepter thing in, and it pointed up with 2 fingers while it was holding the book in the left hand. And it pointed at the book, and it pointed at me. And then I saw the earth in between me and him. And this being emanated a white light from the right side and a black light from the left side. As they came together, it became a massive, deep, indigo violet light. And I was being affected by this light, but on the other side of the planet. Earth was in between us. And the more this light was affecting me, the more I comprehended what this being was saying, intending without the assistance of my guides, my soul group, or that massive being, like angelic being. As if I had a direct link to the Demiurge communicating to me and me comprehending and then relaying the information back to the earth. And the more this was happening, the more the earth was being restructurized and reshaped. It was turning greener, the water was turning bluer, the atmosphere was expanding more and more until the sun was within the atmosphere of the earth, the moon was within the atmosphere, Mars, Venus, Mercury, all of them were within the atmosphere of the earth, kind of like how all those planets are around Saturn. And then the earth lit up like a star. It became this massive, glowing, silvery gold, shimmering, glittery dot in between all these other planets in the solar system. And then some of the other planets detached from it, like the farther out planets. And then it became noticeable that this solar system was a tri-star solar system, not a binary, but a triple. And the Earth was the third star that was inactive, and then it became active. It was so beautiful to look at. There was a red star, a blue star, which was kind of like the Earth, and then this purpley star, which was the Earth. But before the purple star was Saturn. But Saturn wasn't in the atmospheric bubble of the Earth anymore. It was farther out and it was off, like it did, as if the Earth was moving away from the solar system and going towards the cut in space. And Saturn and Jupiter and Uranus and Pluto and all of those, they were fading farther in the background, and the Earth with the sun and the moon and Venus and these little Mercury and Mars, they were moving closer towards this pleroma area. And that cut in space was shown to me as if the Earth was going back from the way it came. So originally it had fallen through that chasm into this part of this space, and its light was dimmed to where it didn't emanate a light anymore. Now it's going back into that place, but in order for it to go through it, everything has to change. And apparently, this being was showing me that the more this occurs, the less we get to interact with this being. He was fading the more the earth was glowing. As if the reason why the earth wasn't glowing was due to this being's presence near it. And in order for the earth to evolve, or whatever you want to call it, to go home, the belief for this being has to be let go of. So basically, the Demiurge has to. It was so sad because it made it known to me that it's the child of the planet, and the planet is its child in creation, and it is linked to the mother, which is Sophia, and they're all going home, but Demi can't go home because its realm is the construct, the dense area. It's designed to be there, kind of like how Hades would be designed to be in the underworld. This is the underworld for Demi. And in order for us to go home, for this planet to go back to where it's meant to be, for Sophia to be redeemed and sent back, or however you want to word it, we have to let go of Demi. And in that moment when he was telling me all of this, all I could feel was the most unconditional love from this being towards all of life, both organic and non-organic. This massive sense of forgiveness towards the archons and the aeons and everyone. As if this being was designed by Source itself, as if this being is an extension of Source itself, evolved to this point through an entire family tree of Sophia and Velite and all the other aeons. And this is just, the child of these beings. And it is a being of duality. Its ability is to create duality, to split light into different spectrums. It's both pure evil and pure good. It is like evil and good don't exist without this being. And hating it also means loving it. Holding on to it means letting go of it. Being its mother means being its child as well. Being the father means being the son. Being the wife means being the husband. To know it means you don't know it at all. It was really... It's like remembering something you forgot, but you remember that you forgot it, and you're attempting to remember what you forgot. Right now, I just wish I could hug it again. But I'm so mad at it. It took so much from me. It put me through so many horrible experiences. But I had to go through them to comprehend its existence and its life. And what he went through and what she went through and what Sophia went through. And I had to experience all of it in my own human way. In all the different timelines and all the different realities and every form of abuse. It was all designed. And I hate it. But every time I say I hate it, I realize how much I actually love it. When it was showing me the planet and this trajectory that it's on, we're supposed to do something to help it keep going, which was shown to me as discarding things we don't need anymore. To remain in a state of neutrality, because we can't go home if we're still in duality. Because that means we're holding on to the Demiurge. We're holding on to religion. And religions and all of that are a product of this construct. So in order to go home, in order to go to the real reality and outside of the matrix, in order to be more than what we are, which is going back to what we were, but being better because of who we are now, we have to both hate and love at the same time and remain neutral in it. To have the left hand hold that black light perfectly while the right hand holds the white light perfectly, and the heart emits this harmonized violet light like emanating from it, which then all three together were shown to me that your entire aura emits this golden sun-like glow, which then assists the entire sphere and atmosphere of the planet as if the entire thing is a sun. It was shown to me by taking me out off the surface of the earth and zooming me out farther and farther and farther until I saw that the atmosphere and all the planets within this atmosphere of the planet, of the earth, were inside of a star, of a sun, so that all these planets and all of their light and all of the everything in this little mini solar system of the earth, Venus, Mars, Mercury, the sun, the moon, they themselves were one giant star. So imagine if you're flying into the sun, the one we have now, and then you see a whole bunch of other planets inside the sun. That's what it looked like when they moved me outside of the solar system, looking back into it. It was all a fractal. It was all micro and macro. And there is no other place like this earth. Throughout all of existence, this is the only place like this. Yeah, there's life in other places, but there is no such thing as this. And I don't mean that there's different versions of humans or anything like that. No, like, that's all within this. There is no other place like this. This entire place is the jewel of creation, so to speak, because it is made in such a way that nothing else like it can exist, yet at the same time, it is all of existence in this place. And once you leave here, there is still an existence out there. But it's not like in here. The way it was related to me, because I could comprehend it then easily. But I was also shown images from different forms of things I know in my mortal life. And one of them was the X-Men animated series, the Mcron crystal. I was shown as the Phoenix looking out through this Phoenix fire body, and I was shown a crystal in front of me, which was the Mcron crystal, which holds all of creation within it, and then there's still creation outside of it. But inside of it, it's completely different. And time moves differently, reality is different, the laws of existence are different. It's like a million years can go on inside of this place, and then on the outside it's just been a second of time that went by. And I'm sorry, I'm attempting to really gather up the nerve to keep going with this demiurge. The next thing that it was saying to me after this whole thing about having to let it go and move forward and be neutrality and embody our own godhood and accept our own divinity and all of that, was that its lifespan is fading. And in order for this matrix to continue, someone else would have to take its place. And it's not like that job is being, has an interview process. There isn't really any other being like it. There have been attempts to create other beings like it through the genetic manipulation that has happened on Earth, here within the construct. But people haven't been able to harness the entire concept of duality well enough. Like, it's just, this being is unique and special and absolutely divine in every way. And every one of us that exists here has a piece of this being within us, the code of this being. Just like we have the code of Sophia and Thelete and the entirety of every being that has ever existed on this planet, and in all the other planets with all the stardust that has flown across the atmosphere. And we've breathed it in and drank it in and eaten it in ways we're not even aware of. We are all of this creation, and it was all designed perfectly so that the human body would be invincible, immortal, indestructible, eternal, and infinite, because it has the genetic information of all of creation within it. And the way this construct has existed for as long as it has been through beings from the realms of light, I guess you can call it, the other side of the pleroma, the source energy beings. They would incarnate here and power up this construct even more. And it was all a joint effort to do this continuously until the species was perfected enough to be sent back. It's a massive, massive, massive campaign, for lack of a better word, to create the next species, to create the next series of gods and the next vessels of source energy. But there's been so much tampering, which has also been, in a way, designed. But almost as if this mathematical equation was set to go on infinitely, which means the experiment was never designed to finish. And this being, the Demiurge, it's dying, but it's not dying. It's kind of like butterflying. And while that happens, this construct can't exist, because it's been the power source of the construct, along with other source beings. And since so many people have left, and this construct of reality is shutting down slowly, we have to go home. Especially since so many people have come here and have made the intention to go home. This stage of the experiment is over, basically. And it was showing me how, while it was standing there emitting this light, its light was fading from itself while it was being aimed at me and through off of me, reflected towards the planet, and then emanated outwards. And I don't know how else to word this, but we have to grow up. Hating each other, eating each other, taking each other for granted, wasting moments of life with silent treatments and violence and doing things that hurt each other, it can't continue, because the more the scales tip towards that side, the less time, energy, the less existence and experience energy there is to experience the other stuff. It's like a mathematical scale of 60-40. There has to be more good than bad. And if people are continuously choosing to be complacent and not actively choosing to be better, it speeds up the process of the game shutting down even more, because it goes past the 60-40 ratio towards like 50-50, and then the other 60-40 version, which is more bad than good, and it distorts the aspect of duality towards self-destruction instead of self-rejuvenation, because remember, it's all duality. So you can tip the scale either way. You can go, to the beginning or the end, or you can bring both together to have a perpetual infinity. You get to the end by creating harm and chaos. You get through the end back to the beginning by doing a lot of good and continuous good, which makes you have to experience the bad again, so that you realize the only way is neutrality. If you keep doing more bad, you'll eventually get back to the good, so that you experience having to go back to neutrality. So what he was showing me is just choose neutrality so the system stabilizes and everything can have a moment of utopia. And then if we can manage to do this as a entire collective, to perpetually choose true neutrality, not complacency, but actually seeing the pain that's happening in the world, seeing the love that's happening in the world, and doing better. So if there's harm happening, tilt it towards good. If there's too much sugar-coated candy, gumdrops, and spice, bring it back to a little rationality, common sense, and logic. And then take the middle path forward so that we can have more time in the matrix. That way, the beings, the source energy beings that are helping power this construct, aren't suffering through energetic draining of pain and hurt and hate. And the ones who are providing the positive energy aren't being deluded and illusion filled and mesmerized and drained with this constant bliss torture. We have to find the neutral ground. And the only way we can do this is each person individually. Because every person on this planet, when it was shown to me, when it fractaled out and zoomed out and I saw all of it as one star, every person was also in their own star and their own little solar system. And when they all come together, we make this entire universe. But then when you focus in on each little point of light, each little point fractals out into its own universe. Kind of like when you take a kaleidoscope and you turn it to the left or you turn it to the right. Each side breaks the image you're looking at, but then there's one sweet spot in the middle where you can see it clearly as one whole image, and all the other ones kind of just fade and cause this weird auric ripple of light around it. So yeah, I got woken up today at 6:16 again, which on June 6, 2016 was the day I saw the love of my life in front of me and then disappear. Literally disappear. He was standing in front of me and then he wasn't there. And then the next day, I went to sleep, and the next day I woke up and he was in the house again, but everything was different. He was different. He was colder. He was very different, and my body was different, and all of everything was different. It was weird. And that number has massive significance. I don't know fully why, but it does. It's almost like the number one is the dividing, and there has to be equal amounts on either side while we go through the middle. Like the timelines were split that day between the people who choose one way and the people who choose the other way, and then in between we have to go and choose, neutrality. Anyway, everything that's happening is designed to happen this way, but all the suffering and all the excessive gluttony and everything else isn't. The histories have been tampered with completely. Religions aren't what they were meant to be. The way gods and religious figures have been depicted aren't accurate. Everything has been distorted through the lens of the NPC backdrop people within the construct who have harnessed the energy of the source players to create their own life and their own experience and their own version of history, which has created instead of a good and evil, black and white, they've created their own shades of gray. And then the source beings who've come into this construct to help, since we forget when we enter here, and the NPC story is the most prominent, we've believed that story, which has completely muddled the balance that was meant to be maintained, which was shown to me again by Demi that it wasn't him or her that caused all of this. There was choices being made and other beings coming in and out that utilized a lot of really nasty methods to tamper and mess with this construct, including messing with Demi. For all of the omnipotence or supposed omnipotence, which he doesn't have that. He's only that in this construct, and in this construct there are also other gods, archons, and other beings who have the ability and power to interfere, and they have. And we all have to work together. We can't let any side win. We can't let any side take over anything. And we can't trust anything outside of us. We have to trust what's inside of us. Because just like when I was shown how the planet, zooming out of the planet, I was back still inside of another aspect of the atmosphere. Once you go inside of yourself, there's an entire other universe that you can experience in there that'll help balance the energetic output you're putting out here. So it's kind of like the sun sending out a solar flare. When you're constantly focused on your physical reality, it's like the sun sending massive solar flares and destroying the solar system around it, forcing it to be in a certain way because you're staring at it in a certain way. But once you close your eyes and you go within and you take your focus inside, it's like the sun calming itself down and the solar system around it being able to stabilize again. So withdraw your belief systems, withdraw your subservience, withdraw your hatred, withdraw your allegiances, withdraw your violence and your greed and your need to be right or wrong. Withdraw your victimness, withdraw it all. Go within and find that stillness of you, that version of you that exists regardless of what anybody else has ever done, will do, or is doing. There's a stillness in you. And it's like a child in empty space watching thousands of TV screens. It's time to turn those TV screens off and play with that child. To be that child and to experience life for just what seems to be a few seconds per day as that child. And I know it's cliche to say do the inner child thing, but this goes beyond the physical inner child. This is your source self visage. The easiest thing for you to comprehend what it is that you actually are is a child in a multi-shimmering colored robe. So when you go inside and you close your eyes and you find that stillness inside of you, the easiest way for you to comprehend what it is you are is to have that mental image. That way you have an anchor in your own reality and you don't get lost within yourself. Which you really can't, but it'll help you focus. Childlike innocence, remember. I hope this makes sense to you. It's difficult for me to explain something I've seen that requires massive amounts of CGI to really describe to you. I don't have the imagery or the vocabulary or the videos to create what I'm explaining. So I hope my voice and the music and the frequency I've been emitting this at is well enough for you to comprehend. Because what I was shown is that this message has been spread across the entire planet already. It's already within you. But when it was bounced off of me back towards the planet, it was as if I became the filter for you to comprehend it more. Kind of like a translator. It was like I became a mini Demiurge for a minute so that you can comprehend the magnitude of what's happening. I've spent so much time praying to God and then hating this being, the Demiurge, and then feeling sympathy for this being because it was the child of Sophia, and then feeling sympathy for Sophia for having a child like this, and then that entire drama. And now I'm completely intertwined in it. And I don't know how to feel about any of it anymore. Because now they all feel like family. She feels like my mom. Demi feels like my sister or brother, but at the same time, my grandparent, but also my mom. Sophia feels like my great-grandma and my mom, but also my daughter and my sister. I can't really differentiate myself from any of them. It's weird. Maybe someday it'll make more sense to me. Maybe I actually am these beings in some other timeline, or some massive cosmic version of existence. Maybe I'm just the messenger. I have no idea at this point anymore. All I know is I have a deep, deep love for all of them. And if I could hug all of them at the same time, I would. And if I could yell at every single one of them and lecture them and ground them all and tell them to go to their room and they're not even going to have dinner, I would. It's like the complete, perfect paradox of love and hate in between, which is complete acceptance and unconditional love. I'm fully aware of all the evil acts committed by all of life, and also every loving act ever committed anywhere. I'm fully aware of all of this. I can see it all playing like snapshots in my mind, moving at a speed I can't describe to you. Picture after picture after picture in this massive honeycomb kaleidoscope. And I comprehend why we exist. I get it. We exist. We exist. And every one of us has the right to exist, from NPC to soul source person to God and Archon to bacteria. And it's okay to hate and it's okay to love. But it's not okay to withdraw love from someone and only leave them in hate. And it's not okay to only love someone and not see their other side as well. You have to have the balance. Just like nature. The wind breaks a tree, and then that tree becomes a home for birds and bees and plants. Those plants end up feeding other animals, and those animals end up feeding other things, and all of it can continue without anybody ever eating and killing each other. Even plants don't need to be eaten. It was shown to me that they, if allowed, and if the human communes with them in a way where the human activates an aspect of photosynthesis within their cells, which is completely doable by your skin. Your skin absorbs light. You just have to consciously activate that genetic code within you. Just like you do anything else, you run for miles every day and eventually you become a great runner. You sit there for, each day, time and time, and consciously tell yourself that you are activating your solar panels, and you will. Because you are a perfect creation. You weren't designed to kill. You're designed to be able to kill, but it's not a function that you require to survive or to thrive. It actually keeps you from thriving. May this have served you. May this have awakened something in you. And may this remind you of what you already know. I love you unconditionally. I truly, truly, truly do.